Remember how I told you that we're going to be in absolute pain when the series comes out? Yeah. Hello, my fellow warriors, hope you're doing well. ARCANE released its first 3 episodes and I honestly don't know whether I should be happy or seek a therapist, because Jesus fucking Christ. I didn't expect the series to be so graphic, and yet I can't thank Riot and Netflix enough because this plot couldn't have been told in any other way. We went from this to this in a matter of 2 hours. And although I wish I could share my ugly sobbing with all of you, due to copyright, I won't be able to do that. But that doesn't mean that I won't be watching the episodes and giving you all of my theories and opinions. If you're unfamiliar with the plot, I would highly suggest for you to check out my previous videos or check out my boys right here who made videos about this as well. Keep in mind that everything is very spoiler heavy, including this video. So without further ado, let's get started. So in the first episode, I was absolutely mind-blown, because for a PG-16 series, I didn't expect to see someone be shot point-blank in the head, watch 𝗲𝘀𝙗𝙗 bashing someone's face in, and seeing 𝗲𝘂𝘂𝗽𝘗𝗍's dead parents. And that's not even like 10 minutes into the series. I never thought this would be so dark and graphic, but I'm really glad it is, because this plot can't be told any other way. I loved how Jinx was covering her eyes and singing a little song to calm herself down, and adored the fact that nobody had to say a word to express what they wanted. A small gasp, a slow nod, that's literally all we needed. Be it Vi letting go and breaking down in tears, or 𝗲𝘀𝘀 looking at his gauntlets before throwing them to the ground and picking up the girls to leave the mess behind. And all of that is done in absolute silence, which spoke volumes. The episode was basically an introduction to the relationship they had with 𝗲𝘀𝘀 and Echo. Vi is regarded as the leader of the group, Milo is the cocky brat who thinks he's better than everyone, 𝗏𝗀𝗏 is the softie that won't hesitate to throw it down, and Jinx is the youngest, who's shown to be the sweet and quite insecure kid. It was only later that we found out that they were all technically adopted by 𝗲𝘀𝘀, hence making them all siblings. But you could already tell some of that by noticing Vi's overprotectiveness of the youngest, and the way 𝗲𝘀𝘀 took 𝗏𝗀𝗏 with him to carry some stuff over to Benzo's, who's 𝗲𝘀𝘀's old friend, and Echo's boss? I couldn't really tell the relationship between the two because technically in the lore, Echo already has 2 hardworking parents. So maybe Benzo was his guardian up until the events in episode 3, which kind of forced him to be adopted into another family. The way the squad just went about breaking into a 𝗵𝘁𝗏𝗏 apartment and fighting their way back home really showed the reality of being a sump rat that grew up in the lanes. The Black Lanes, for those who don't know, is a black market that is located right next to the sump, which is a place where merchants and thieves do business. Anything is for sale, anything can be stolen, and due to the area being so close to the sumps, the air is barely breathable. Which is why we saw junkies smoking on the ground, implied prostitution in the streets, and 𝗵𝘁𝗏𝗏 wardens walking around with oxygen masks. The star of the episode is of course 𝗲𝘀𝘀𝘀, who charmed us all with all of his DILF glory. Because not only did he accept and let go of his past mistakes, but he also took in 4 kids that he raised and treated with love and respect, was running a full-blown business in one of the hardest places in Runeterra, protected his own people from thugs, and most importantly, made sure to protect the peace between Zaun and 𝗵𝘁𝗏𝗏 by working in secret with Miss Grayson. Who, by the way, is such an amazing character. The way she just told Marcus to fuck off was just peak queen energy. But it was the ending of the episode that really made me scream. Remember how I told you that Silco was giving mad singed energy? Well, technically, I was not wrong, because they are working with one another. The one who created the enhancement drug called Shimmer? Yeah, that was Singed. He was the creepy old dude who watched the rat go feral. He's literally right here in the credits. Which means that Singed is technically the reason why all of this is happening in the first place. And I can fucking contain myself because I hate this guy. Jayce is a fucking Freljordian? Like, I expected anything besides that. Also, what's with the rune magic? Are they really retconning the whole 𝗨𝗏𝗧𝗏 lore? Because if that's the case, then they have to change Camille's entire lore. After all, it was her aunt who found and murdered all the Breckerans that made their clan filthy rich. I really hope they won't be retconning it, because Skarner's lore holds so much importance in the creation of Piltover. Removing him entirely from the plot will butcher the severity of Piltover being literally built on top of a mass genocide. Like, you don't need to focus on him, but at least try and incorporate him into the story. Anyways, going back, I actually find it absolutely hilarious that Jayce gets fucked over by 4 kids. Because not only do they break into and blow up his apartment, but to make things worse, this tiny fucking terrorist steals all of his hex crystals. And for a second there, you're like, oh, it's okay, he's a rich kid, he'll figure it out. Especially with Caitlyn's loaded parents at his side. But then, homeboy gets arrested. What? Donger then literally pops his head into the prison cell to give him a speech about how with great power comes great responsibility, and that no one should try and control magic because no one should possess that much power. Which Jayce responds with bet and then starts capping like 10 minutes later, because he truly believes that Piltover will use all this power for good. It's not like there's a whole Undercity with all of its people that was left to rot or anything. Like, for fuck's sakes, Jayce, if you're so smart, why no use brain? Also, Donger casually dropped the fact that he's over 300 years old, which means that he's clearly not using any type of glamour, and is in fact walking around in his actual Yordle form. Which I have to admit kind of sucks, because that retcons the whole Jinx is so mentally unstable that she can literally see through Donger's and Ziggs's true forms. So after their little talk, Jayce is taken to a trial where he has zero proof of his grandiose scientific breakthrough, which gets him cancelled by literally everyone. Like, his mom tells everyone he's unwell, and Caitlyn's parents, who are his patrons, literally ghost him. So now, without a fancy scholarship and moral support, he decides to off himself. Luckily, right before he jumps out of his newly constructed balcony, Victor shows up and tells him to do a flip. Mentally, that is. Jayce expresses how he's got nothing left because no one believes in him, which is then when Victor tells him that as a poor cripple who crawled out of Zaun, he was an outsider the moment he stepped into Piltover, that he didn't have patrons or a name, that he just simply believed in himself, which is why he's there for him, because he thinks he's onto something, and that if he wants to change the world, he can't be asking for permission. Historians will say that they were friends, but I'm here to tell you that their tension is homoerotic as fuck. Because you see, Riot, we're feral and deprived, and we will ship every single male relationship in the world of Runeterra until you give us a proper gay couple. Because Kai and Valmar are fucking dead. Meanwhile, the squad is still being chased by Piltover enforcers, and the Zonies are mad. So mad, in fact, that they're willing to go for civil war numero dos. But fortunately, our boy Vander is there to tell them to sit the fuck down because violence won't solve anything, for he has been there and he had done that. But Vi is not happy with her father's approach, for she had grown up knowing that she is a second-rate citizen and wouldn't want the same future for Powder. Vander then reminds her about how he was the one who led the first civil war across the bridge, and that if not for him, her parents would still be among the living. He truly understands her frustration, but is still trying to get through to her by asking her if she's willing to sacrifice anything and lose anyone. That's when Vi decides that she had to fix the mess that she had caused and turn herself to the enforcers. Oh, where do I even start? Jesus fucking Christ. So Vander finds out Vi wants to turn herself in and instead locks her up and turns himself instead. Miss Grayson shows up, arrests him, And then 𝗃𝗀𝗪 comes out of fucking nowhere with his juiced up frat boy. Benzo gets murdered, Grayson gets murdered, Vander gets kidnapped. And all of that not even 10 minutes into the episode. Dude, like, Grayson was such a freaking baddie, we didn't even really get to know her, or Benzo, like, come on. So now Vi needs to save Daddy Dearest, and the only way for her to do that is by taking the boys with her and leaving Jinx behind. All because Marcus couldn't let go of his fucking ego trip. 𝗃𝗀𝗪 then drags Vander into his hideout and goes on to reminiscing about the good old days when they were besties, how they were fighting for the nation of Zon, and how Vander kinda tried to kill him. Oop. Luckily for Vander, 𝗃𝗀𝗪 doesn't hold any hard feelings. But since our boy is very patriotic, he's still very obsessed with the idea of the nation of Zon, admitting that he'd much rather start a Shimmer zombie apocalypse than live another day under Piltover. Meanwhile, Jace and Victor pull out an all-nighter to try and figure out the whole stabilization of the crystal. They realize that it's all great on paper, but for them to truly test their theory, they'll have to do a physical test with the tools that are locked in Donger's lab. Jace's dream is now Victor's dream, and they sneak into the academy to get to Jace's tools. So they're sneaking through the dark hallways just to be caught by Mel, which Victor then responds to with, "Wait a minute, this isn't my bedroom. Sir, why are you taking Jace to your bedroom in the middle of the night, sir? Sir, why would you say that?" Luckily for them, Mel is an ally who decides to give them the benefit of the doubt and go through with their experimentations, which literally results in one of the most beautiful shots we've ever seen so far in the series. But the thing is that never happened in the lore. Jake studied his crystals in solitude after Clan 𝗬𝗪𝘃 gave him the crystals. The only thing that Jace and Victor worked on was the mechanized suits that they made for the Piltovan dock workers. However, when Victor's next version of the suit included a Chemtech implant that could increase the wearer's strength while also preventing them from getting tired, panicking, or disobeying instructions from their superiors, Jace flipped because he believed it was immoral, which is why Jace warned the Academy of Victor's invention, and Victor was stripped of his honors and got cancelled by the Piltover scientific community. Yeah, so although this is all very cute, it was actually Victor who fell into a really deep depression, which brought him the revelation that human emotion is a weakness. And so, in secret, he operated on himself to remove the parts of his flesh and psyche that produced any type of emotions, leaving almost no trace to the young man he once was. So although the music and the animation and just the scene as a whole was truly remarkable, I personally felt like I was watching different characters. Not to mention Victor's accent, because if you've played the games, you know that it's a lot heavier than it is in the show. Like, don't get me wrong, the accent was still there and the British actor did a remarkable job. But I've been accustomed to a specific style, and by not having it, it kind of just ruins the immersion. That is, of course, my own opinion. The last part of the episode is truly what broke us all. Since it's then that we truly see Jinx's abandonment issues, and although she's been told to stay home like the lost child she is, she does the exact opposite and tries to get to the squad who's trying to break Vander free. They quickly realize that they were led to a trap, and although at first things seem dire, the squad shows promising results of handling the situation. That is until Jinx decides to, and I quote, "only help," by rigging one of her bomb monkeys with hex crystals and blowing the whole place up. Milo gets fucking impaled, Clagger gets thrown back and buried alive, Sinch's lab gets blown up with him in it, and the only ones who someone get out of it are Vi and Vander. It is then that 𝗃𝗀𝗪𝘃's juiced up frat boy starts walking towards Vander, and Vander decides to take him on. Just for 𝗃𝗀𝗪 to come in, stab it in the back, and push him off the bridge into a pile of shimmer. The juiced up frat boy then starts walking towards Vi, and it is then when we hear a very familiar snarl and growl. 𝗲𝘠𝘠 shows up pumped on shimmer and uses the frat boy as a chew toy right before turning to 𝗪𝘀𝗀. But realizing that Vi is in danger, he turns around and saves her instead. And that's when shit really hits the fan. 𝗲𝘠𝘠 passes out in Vi's arms when suddenly Jinx shows up, excited than ever to share her latest accomplishment with Vi, basically admitting that she just murdered her entire family. She's of course not aware of any of it because she's a fucking child, but it's when Vi turns around and asks her, "Why did you do it?" that Jinx realizes what she had done. Jinx only wanted to help, but instead accidentally murdered her family, which is what Swain, Warwick, and Fiddle have hinted at us for so many years. The voice acting, the animation, it was just all fucking Oscar worthy. Like, Studio Fortige just ascended to a whole new level of animation. The way that Vi slapped her to the ground and told her that Milo was right about her being a Jinx, Powder sobbing and begging Violet to not leave her as she walked away. Yeah, all of that fucking broke me. And you can't be mad at them because on one end you have a child with massive abandonment issues that you have left unattended. And on the other hand, you have Vi, who's also, by the end of the day, is just a child. I'm not even surprised that Jinx threw herself at 𝗪𝘀𝗀. A kid that fucking traumatized just wouldn't be able to mentally handle anything. And when on one end you could really see 𝗪𝘀𝗀 sympathizing with her and feeling for her in her situation, on the other end, he also realized how he could exploit her, which is super fucked up. Also, did Marcus just chloroform the child? And don't tell me it's for her own protection. He's the reason why this all happened in the first place. At least I hope that Vi managed to grab Clogger's goggles, because later on in the future, she's wearing the exact same type. So I really hope that it's actually his. Now here's the thing about Vander and why I think that he is not actually dead. If you really focus on that scene, you can slightly hear Warwick's heartbeat sound effect, which can mean one of two things. One, Vander actually passed out and was later on carried out by 𝗪𝘀𝗀 so he could use him as his ultimate weapon. Or two, Vander died just so his body could fully mutate and be reborn as a beast that Singed, after surviving the explosion, will have to heavily sedate so he could make him into subject 1088, the uncaged wrath of Zaun. If you've got your own theories, please leave them in the comment section below so I can check them out myself. And now, here are some extra noteworthy things that you might have missed. First thing is this scene in Jace's room where you can see this triquetra. The triquetra has different meanings for different people and religions, but if we go off of magic and alchemy, I'd say it might symbolize the earth, sea, and sky, life, death, and rebirth, or the lunar and solar phases. But I personally think that it has a weekend symbology, which represents creation, innocence, and wisdom. Oh, and another thing is that Hextech Janna poster on the wall. I see you, Jace. I see you. The second thing is this scene where Jinx is playing an arcade game with Teemo featured in it, which is really cool because Teemo visits Zaun a lot to purchase his shrooms from the 𝗵𝘁𝗽𝗍 peddler. The third thing that I'm sure that a lot of you notice are these masks in Benzo's shop. The masks at Benzo's are clearly of Ionian origin. Not only do they hold a close resemblance to Jin's mask, but they also resemble Mistress Xi's mask, who is a member of Zed's Order of the Shadows, And it also resembles the mask that the Keeper of Masks uses in the Kinku Order's graduation ceremonies, which is Shen's order. And as you might already know, these three hold a lot of history together, especially in Piltover and Zaun. The fourth thing is these foreshadowings. The way Vander grabs Silco by the throat is the exact same way Violet grabs Powder by her face. And the way Vi jumps in the air is a clear homage to her future signature move. And speaking of foreshadowing, here is thing number 5, which is Fishbones, Jinx's cannon. You can see it here sketched in the back, and again here in its plushie form. If you found anything else, let me know in the comment section below. But yeah, that's all for today. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please don't forget to like and subscribe. And if you'd like to support the channel, you can check out my Patreon, donation page, or become a member. Huge thanks to today's supporters: Ewan, Proudy, T-Slade, It's Fine Pal, Diamond, Bacon, Tono, Chase, Yar, Gianni, Thelon, Torben, Ida, Nux, Jayset, Kovu, Amarasa, Riposh, and 𝗵𝘂𝗽𝗍𝗏 for making this video possible. Thanks again for watching, and I hope to see you next time. Bye bye.